show you some tips and tricks for cutting out an image from iron-on vinyl, also called HTV for heat transfer vinyl, and place it on a fabric item. I'm going to take this design and place it on a little canvas bag. So first off, I want to make sure that this is going to fit on my bag. So what I'm going to do is go to my shapes, and I'm just going to insert a square. And then I'm going to measure that bag and make this square the same dimensions as the bag. So to do that, I'm going to unlock it, and I can type in up here under size the dimensions. So if it's 6 by 4, let's just, and now I can take this rectangle and change the color to be a nice deep blue to match the color of my bag, just so I get a better idea of how things are going to look. So now I want the bag obviously behind the image, so I'm going to say arrange and move this backwards. So now I can play with my image and make sure it's the right size. And actually that looks really good for sizing. But this helps you get a good visual for spacing, sizing, and also for coloring. So since I do not want to cut this rectangle, I can just delete it because that was purely for design purposes. Since I'm going to cut this out of HTV or heat transfer vinyl, I want to have the image mirrored so that it cuts out reversed. You'll see why this is important after we do the cutting process. Two ways that you can do this. You can either use flip horizontal right here, and that mirrors the whole thing. If I wouldn't have done the flip horizontal, when I go make it, and it puts the preview image on the cutting mat, I can click the mirror button here, and that mirrors or flips the entire design. So next step is cutting. After you click make it, you'll see the double arrow start to blink on your Cricut machine. That's how we know it's time to load the Cricut cutting mat. So here's a view of the mat, and because I'm cutting HTV, I want to make sure that I put the HTV with the shiny side down. This is also a glitter HTV, so there's a shiny carrier sheet on it, and then the back is actually the vinyl. So make sure you take a look at things really carefully. And yeah, mine is kind of sticking to my mat. Sorry about that. So I'm going to put the shiny side of the material, which is the carrier sheet, down, touching the cutting mat. So then the pretty glitter side, I'm not even going to see it when I'm cutting, because I'm actually cutting through the back side of the iron-on vinyl. Make sure you're lining everything up with the grid, and then you're going to also make sure that when you insert the cutting mat, it's going underneath the little guides, which are kind of like clips on the side. Smooth everything down. You want your HTV, any material that you put on your cutting mat, to be smooth. Otherwise, you're going to end up with ripples and bumps. So there's those guides. Make sure it's going under the guides on both sides before you load the mat. Now what I like to do is hold on to the mat from the far end as I push this button to kind of help guide it in. The next thing you'll notice is that the C button starts to blink. That's the Cricut cut button. So I'm going to make sure I have my dial set to iron on, then I can hit that C. This is what starts the cutting process. And now it will cut out the word believe, which was what my design was. And this is actually just cutting through the vinyl and not through that clear carrier sheet, because when we get to the step of weeding this, you'll see why that's important. This holds everything together so you can move it all at once. Instead of having all kinds of separate little pieces that you have to line up, everything's going to stay connected on that carrier sheet. So you can easily just pick up that one piece attached to the carrier sheet and press all these little pieces down at once. This is why I like working with iron-on vinyl. It just makes your life so much easier because it comes with this little carrier sheet already attached. Now that the cutting has stopped, you'll see that double arrow button start to blink again. This means we can press that button to unload our cutting mat from the machine. Then we will remove this vinyl from the cutting mat and start the weeding process. Weeding is the process of removing all the excess vinyl from around your design. I have a few tools here: scissors, a weeding tool, and my pin pen. I love this little pen. It's got a pin sticking out of the end of it. It makes it great for trying to pick up tiny pieces or weeding out centers of letters, especially when they're tiny. So first I'm going to take my scissors and just trim off some of this excess vinyl here so that I have a smaller piece that I'm working with. Okay, you can see the glittery side, so now we're working from the back side. This is why we wanted to mirror our image, because we're working from the back and you can see those cut lines. So I'm going to start at a corner. I like to do this just to get things going. So I take the little weeding tool and kind of poke it in and kind of roll back a corner so that I can grab it and just peel it off. I like to peel it at a diagonal. I don't know why. I kind of feel like it puts less pressure on the edges of the design and makes things weed out easier. Also, use a good quality vinyl. So you just keep peeling back to reveal your design. When you get into some of these sections, it might get difficult. Cutaway pieces. It's because there was a swirl in there. So it was kind of trying to decide which way it wanted to go. So I trimmed off a piece so that it more easily could peel up exactly where I wanted it to. And look, once you get it going, it really peels back easily. Honestly, sometimes the hardest part is when you peel it off, it likes to kind of try to re-stick to the carrier sheet. So that's why you guys see me having one hand there holding stuff down and then the other one peeling back. But look at those tiny details and how easily those weeded out. Okay, so right here you're going to see my skinny bottom of my E kind of started to come up. But look, just peel it off and stick it back down. And this is the other reason to kind of go slower. Because if you get something that like that kind of catches, you can hold it down and just stick it back onto the carrier sheet and everything is fixed. Because this is glitter, I think that's why there's some little edges that are catching. But again, because I'm going slow, it makes it easier. Okay, so now you can see there's still some centers that I need to get out. So I'm taking my weeding tool and just pulling them out. Just keep going back and looking for your centers. If you need to, go look at your design in the Cricut design software and look at each area and say, oh, is there a hole there or not? Now you can see I'm using the pin pen to get this one started because it's tiny, and then I can just literally stab that little pin into there or use the pin to kind of kick the vinyl up and peel it out. I didn't even realize that little star was in the center of there when I first started peeling. That was kind of a surprise. So now when I flip it over, I can see the full design. And just hold it up to a light or something to make sure there's no little center pieces that you missed on anything. Because I'm not going to lie, sometimes those little cut lines are hard to see. Before I press this, I'm going to use some heat resistant tape. This is specifically for your heat press projects. This allows you to take your design, place it on the item you're going to press it onto, and then tape down the edges. This just kind of helps secure things so that it's not going to shift around on you. I like doing this, especially with a small project like this, because then I'm not playing with placement of things under the hot heat press. I can place it, center it, decide if I want to shift it one way or the other, and then take the tape and just tape down the edges and then pick up this whole piece and move it to my heat press. Before you start to press anything, make sure you place your project so that seams, or in this case the zipper, is not in the way. This is why I placed this project with the handle and the zipper actually outside of the press. Then I place a piece of parchment paper over the top and press. Make sure to check the brand of vinyl that you are using for its recommended pressing time and temperature. Every brand of vinyl is going to vary slightly, so always, always, always refer to the directions on your product. Once it's done pressing, I just lift up the top, remove the parchment paper. You can reuse that, save that. Then I'm going to peel back the tape. It's going to be warm, so be careful. And now I can just pull off that carrier sheet to reveal the design. And don't worry, I'll bring it closer to the camera so you can see it. I do like to touch the edge and check it to see if it really stuck down smooth. If not, you can give it another quick press. But there you go. There's your finished project.